Baleska, The Dancer of Death, by Omar Cuellar. It was 1988, and I was just a child. I lived with my parents in an old but cozy house in Montpelier, Vermont, a place where winters were harsh and storms seemed to have a life of their own. I vividly remember that night, one when the sky roared with fury and lightning illuminated the walls of my home like a theater of shadows. For reasons they never fully explained, my parents had to leave that night, leaving me alone. I can still feel the weight of loneliness that settled in my chest as the wind battered the windows. I'm not sure if what happened that night was a dream or reality. Sometimes, when I try to recall it, the edges of the memory blur, like watercolor paintings under the rain. But what I do know is that that night changed my life forever. What happened shaped my destiny in a way I never imagined and led me to become what I am today, a professional ballet dancer. It all began in the living room of my house, a spacious area with worn furniture and a lamp that flickered with every thunderclap. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the dark window where the rain pounded relentlessly. That's when I saw something that caught my attention, a dark silhouette peering into the house from beneath the window. At first, I thought it was a trick of my imagination, a cruel game of light and fear. But no, that shadow had form, had life. My heart raced as I tried to make out what or who was there, lurking in the middle of the night. The shadow moved, and suddenly I wasn't alone in the room. The figure rose, as if the thunder and lightning had commanded it to present itself before me. It was a young man, beautiful with a strange smile, his red hair gleaming even under the dim light of the lamp. He wore a striking blue dress shirt, a red tie that seemed to burn against his chest, beige pants that contrasted with the elegance of his attire, and glossy black shoes. His presence was exquisite, almost unreal. What struck me most wasn't his clothing or his beauty, but the way he presented himself. He emerged from the shadows with movements that weren't human, or at least not ordinary. It was as if he combined the artistry of a mime, the grace of a clown, and the intensity of an actor, all at once. His steps were silent but filled with intention, as if every gesture had been rehearsed 1,000 times. He extended one arm, then the other. Then he placed a hand on his hip and bowed toward me, as if offering a formal greeting. I was so terrified that I couldn't look away. Then, right in front of me, he began to spin. His arms rose like wings. His legs sliced through the air with precision, and his entire body seemed to defy gravity. He leaped, twirled, and danced with a frenzied energy that left me breathless. It was a whirlwind of movement, a dance that blended madness and perfection. I had never seen anything like it, and my small world, limited to games and schoolwork, expanded in that moment. When he finished, he gave a flourish of gratitude, bowing slightly as if expecting applause. But I was so paralyzed by what I had witnessed that I couldn't move or make a sound. And then, as quickly as he had appeared, he vanished. The room fell silent, except for the roar of the storm outside. I sat there trembling, wondering if it had all been a fear-induced dream. From that night on, the dancer infiltrated my dreams. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him dancing before me with that same intensity, that same blend of elegance and chaos. I wanted to dance like him. No, more than that, I wanted to become him. His image burned into my mind like an obsession, and during the day when I wasn't asleep, I would close my eyes and replay every one of his movements. I had memorized them without realizing it. But something tormented me. two regrets that weighed on my soul like stones. The first was not having applauded when he finished his dance. It had been so magnificent, so worthy of recognition, and I had stayed silent, like a fool. The second, perhaps the most painful, was not having asked his name. Who was this young man with red hair who had burst into my life with his dance? Months passed, then years. Growing up in Montpelier wasn't easy with that image haunting my mind. While my friends played baseball or wandered the hills, I practiced steps in my room, mimicking what I had seen that night. I imagined myself in his blue shirt, his red tie, spinning before an audience that admired me as much as I admired him. But his name remained a mystery. When I turned 25, my life took another unexpected turn. I was distractedly watching local news one night when a headline caught my attention. A witness claimed that a strange, mysterious man, dressed with a red tie, had broken into a nearby house, danced ballet in front of a young girl, and then vanished. The girl, according to the report, had died of a heart attack immediately after the performance. My blood ran cold when I heard about the red tie. I knew instantly it was him, the dancer from my childhood, the one who had changed my destiny, was alive and still dancing. But now there was a dark twist. His dance brought death. The news should have horrified me, should have made me hate him, yet my admiration for him was so deep that I didn't care. I only wanted to see him again, to ask his name, and to show him what I had learned because of him. I began to investigate. I scoured old newspapers, talked to neighbors, and searched for patterns in the news. I discovered it wasn't an isolated case. There were other children who had mysteriously died of heart attacks in recent years, all after strange encounters with a man who danced. Each story brought me closer to him, and though I knew he was dangerous, my desire to find him only grew. I became obsessed with predicting his next move. If he was still targeting children with his deadly dance, there had to be a way to anticipate him. I researched houses near the location of the last girl's death and marked those with young children. My plan was simple, but risky. Wait for him to appear again. Another stormy night arrived, as if fate wanted to recreate that scene from 1988. I sneaked into the garden of a house where I knew a family with children lived. The rain poured down, and the wind shook the trees. Then I saw him, a familiar figure struggling with a window. It was him, the dancer, now older, with wrinkles marking his face, but still wearing that red tie that gleamed under the flash of lightning. My heart pounded as I watched him. All I wanted was to ask his name and tell him how much I admired his dance. I whispered to get his attention, and when he turned toward me, I began to dance to impress him. I poured everything I had learned into those movements, every spin, every leap, every step I had practiced for years, inspired by him. It was my tribute to him. He looked at me, first with surprise, then with something like recognition. But as I danced, his expression changed. His hands clutched his chest, his legs trembled, and suddenly he collapsed onto the wet grass. He was having a heart attack. I stopped, horrified, and ran to him. I didn't want to kill him. I only wanted to impress him, to have him see me as his equal. Crying under the rain, I knelt beside him. "Please, don't die," I pleaded. "I just want to know your name. I want you to know I became a dancer because of you." His glassy, pain-filled eyes met mine. In a faint voice he whispered, "Baleska. My name is Baleska." It was as if the world stopped in that moment. Through tears, I confessed everything. That night in 1988, when you danced for me, you changed my life. I became a professional dancer because I was in awe of you. Everything I am is because of you. I hoped he would smile, congratulate me, tell me my dance had been worthy of him. But instead, his lips curled into a bitter grimace. "I wanted to kill you," he said with his final breath. His words pierced me like a knife. The man I had idolized, the one who had given meaning to my existence, had entered my home that night with the intent to end my life. My dance, my way of feeling and expressing myself, had all stemmed from an encounter with death disguised as beauty. Baleska died there, in the garden, as the storm continued to rage. I stayed by his side, soaked, trembling, and crying, unable to process what I had just heard. I had spent years admiring a killer, chasing him, becoming a shadow of him, and now that I had found him, now that I had danced for him, I had killed him unintentionally. The following days were a whirlwind of confusion. The police arrived at the house after an anonymous report, found Baleska's body, and began investigating. I never confessed my connection to him. I said I had seen him trying to break in and that he collapsed suddenly. They couldn't link me to his death, but I knew the truth. My dance had destroyed him, just as his had created me. I returned to my life as a professional dancer, but something in me had changed. Every time I took the stage, I saw his face in the audience, his red tie standing out among the shadows. I wondered if he had felt the same thing I did, a mix of passion and obsession for dance, a fire that consumed him to the point of driving him to madness. People applauded me, praised me, said my style was unique, frenzied, almost supernatural. But I knew where that energy came from. It came from that night in 1988, from an encounter I didn't fully understand. Baleska had been my muse and my executioner, my inspiration and my condemnation, and though I now knew his name, he remained an enigma. Sometimes, on stormy nights, I sit in my living room and stare at the window, waiting to see him again. I know he's dead, that I killed him with my own dance, but a part of me still searches for him. I want to ask him so many things: why he danced, why he killed, why I didn't die that night when his intention was otherwise. My career grew over the years. I became a recognized name in the world of ballet, someone whose story inspired others. But I never told the truth. I never spoke of Baleska, the dancer of death who gave me a purpose and then tore it away with his final words. He was my secret, my burden, my legacy. Now when I teach my students, I tell them that dance is life, expression, freedom. But deep down, I know it can also be death. I saw it in Baleska's eyes as he faded, felt it in my heart as I wept over his body. Dance united us and destroyed us, like a tragedy written in steps and spins. Decades have passed since that night in Montpelier, but I can still close my eyes and see him dancing before me. His blue shirt, his red tie, his impossible movements. I can recreate every leap, every gesture, as if time hasn't passed. He lives on in me, in every step I take, in every performance I give. I wonder if somewhere Baleska is watching me, if from wherever he is, he feels pride or resentment for what I became. I like to think that at least for a moment, as I danced for him in that garden, I managed to impress him, that my dance was an echo of his, a reflection of what he gave me that night in 1988. And so I live, caught between admiration and horror, between art and death. My name resonates in theaters, but Baleska's remains a whisper in my soul.